Welcome back, everybody, to Killing Kayfabe podcast. My name is Mark, and my co-host today is Chris. Chris, how you doing?
Come on, guys.
So a lot's been going on since the last time we recorded one of these, and I think the hottest topic right now in the world of pro wrestling is going to be the PWI 500, as well as some debuts, some fallout from All Out, as well as a little bit of controversy regarding the All Out pay-per-view. So, Chris, what do you want to get started on today?
Well, maybe we should start off by talking about the PWI 500, see what your thoughts are on the positions of certain superstars.
I think the list is broken. I think the whole system is broken, but that's kind of besides the point. How do you feel about Moxley being named number one overall for the year 2020?
Well, he's had a great year as far as everything he's done is concerned. Do I agree with him being number one? I would have rather seen Adam Cole at number one rather than number two. I mean, Adam Cole most definitely carried NXT for the better part of this year and last year. And we can't argue the fact that most, if not all, of Cole's matches have all been phenomenal.
Well, if you look at what he's done over the last year, he's kind of really carried NXT since they came forefront on actual cable television instead of just on the network. But I don't necessarily feel that Adam Cole would be the rightful number one heir either for the year. I think that you kind of have to go across, the Pacific to really see what's really going on in a company that it has really shown some great matches over the last year, but nobody's talking about anymore because they don't have Kenny Omega there or the Young Bucks anymore, and that would be in New Japan. I think Okada was the number one wrestler of this year. Now,
that's very, very good point as well. Just like Adam Cole.
I think people
see a bad Okada match.
I think people also need to realize that this list doesn't just include the year 2020, because I've seen a lot online. How can we look at this with the right perception with there being a pandemic and everything going on? A lot of shows aren't running. A lot of companies aren't doing shows up until recently. Some of them haven't even restarted yet. But
a lot of superstars also are stuck in their home countries, not allowed to come in the U.S.
Well, the list actually starts at the later part of last year. That's how they do their ranking system, because obviously it comes out in August every year. They kind of start, they don't specify what month, but it starts around the time that the issue is printed and then goes forward from there and up until about a month before they put out the 500 for the current year. So when they do that, you got to look at the nature of everything going on from about last summer up until this summer. Now you mentioned Adam Cole. When I'm looking at what Meltzer has rated him star matches over the last year. Okay, and obviously this isn't the only thing to go by. You can't just go by stars. You have to look at what the PWI says is their drawing power, their rivalries, title reigns, length of title reigns, the importance of the person in that brand and everything. So there's a lot of different factors. But if you look at star power for Adam Cole, let's look. We'll start on August 10th last year. He had a 4-star match in the Observer against Gargano in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the NXT Championship. Then at TakeOver War Games, that big War Games match where Kevin Owens made his surprise return to NXT, it was a 4.5-star match. The next night, Survivor Series against Pete Dunne. It says 4.25 stars. NXT TV episode 380 against Finn Balor, 4.25. The Worlds Collide. That was that whole Walter and all those guys against the Undisputed Era, 4.25. He had a February 16th TakeOver Portland match against Ciampa, 4.75 stars. The Great American Bash against Keith Lee, 4.25 stars. Then TakeOver 30 with Pat McAfee. Obviously, this, I don't even really want to take this into consideration. I mean, it happened after the PWI was already printed, but let's just talk about that for a second. 3.75 stars with Pat McAfee. That match didn't deserve 3.75 stars. Especially coming from a guy like Meltzer, who's always criticized as being so New Japan oriented. I mean, he gave that 3.75 stars. That is just trash.
Well, that being said, McAfee was pretty good for someone that's not a trained wrestler.
He's still an athlete.
But And that's exactly the point. He's still an athlete, but I agree. 3.75, that match was not.
I mean, you can't tell me that this all started 2 months ago and McAfee was like, I'm going to get some wrestling training and we're going to have a takeover match. This has been going on for quite some time. It just all of a sudden came to the forefront, and, he's probably been training for quite some time for this match.
Touch on, I really feel like as far as PWI goes, I think MJF was very, very underrated on that list.
Well, before we jump onto where we feel like everyone else should be moved around, I want to touch on my point too with Okada. If you look at it since last summer, just star rating alone, let's go to around the same time. So let's go to August 10th of last year. Okada and Ibushi, 5 stars. August 11th, the next night, Tanahashi, Okada, Ospreay, and Yoshihashi against Archer, Suzuki. I'm going to butcher these names, some of them. Kanemaru and Zack Sabre Jr., 4 stars. The next night after that, Suzuki and Sabre Jr. against Tanahashi and Okada, 4.5 stars. The 31st of that year, Okada against Suzuki, 4.5 stars. October 7th, Evil and Sonata against Okada and Ibushi, 3.75 stars. October 14th, a week later, Okada and Sonata, 4 stars. About a month later, on November 9th, Okada and Ospreay against Ibushi and the Amazing Red, 3.75. I mean, the Amazing Red was involved in a 3.75 star match. December 8th, Jushin Thunder Liger and Ibushi in Tiger Mask 4 against Okada, Sho, and Yo, 3.25 stars. December 21st, Okada, Romero, and Yoshihashi with against Tanahashi, Liger, and Ibushi, 4 stars. January 4th, Okada and Ibushi, 5.75 stars. The next night, and this also goes into consideration of having that star power in that feud with Okada and Naito right here. January 5th, when Naito beat Okada, 5-star match. So one night he has a 5.75 star match. The next night, 5-star match. And then the night after that, January 6th, Okada, Eagles, Ospreay, and Yoshihashi against Archer, Suzuki, Taichi, and Zack Sabre Jr., 3.25 stars. February 1st, Suzuki and Taichi against Moxley and Okada, 3.75 stars. February 2nd, Okada, Taichi, 4.25 stars. February 9th, Okada and Ospreay against Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr., 3.75 stars. February 22nd, Goto, Tanahashi, Okada, and Ibushi against Tenzan, Nakanishi, Kojima, and Nagata, 4.25 stars. Now we go into the post-pandemic era here with New Japan, June 17th. Okada and Gedo, 1 star. So that did not look good for Okada coming right out of the pandemic. But then just a few days later, you start to see a little bit of an improvement. Tanahashi, Sonata, Shingo, and Naito against Okada, Sho, Tomohiro Ishii, and Toru Yano in a 2.75 star match. Okada, since the pandemic, has not really had a whole lot of great matches here, so I'm not going to read all of them off. Okada and Takahashi, 4 stars on July 3rd. And then recently, August 9th, so this one won't be considered either for the PWI, was Goto, Ishii, Yoshihashi against Okada, Sho, and Yano, was a 4.25 stars. There was other ones, they were just a lot lower, but to get onto this list, you have to at least have had some star ranking. I mean, for Christ's sakes, you have Rush on this PWI list, and Rush, I'm a very big fan of Rush, but one of his matches was a -1 star, and so I don't understand how Rush was ranked so high. What was his ranking again? If you have the list right there.
18th.
So 18th, and he had a -1 star match. And
yes.
I think
and MJF is 22nd.
I get that the feud with PCO and Rush probably put him there. I think Okada was kind of untouchable when it got to the top of the list this year. I think Moxley was the sexy pick for people. They looked at it as, oh, he went over to New Japan, because people don't realize that he's still a champion in New Japan. He's still the United States IWGP United States champion.
Correct.
So, I mean, people aren't really realizing what's going on overseas either, if you're just looking at what he's doing in AEW. So, Yeah, he's had a lot of success overseas this year. He's had some decent matches overseas this year, and he's had very good success in AEW this year. But what has really stood out with the guy since he's held the title? I haven't seen anything stand out. Maybe this feud with MJF, and in my opinion, he should have lost the title to MJF. MJF should have beat him at All Out.
Mind you, MJF's loss wasn't clean. It doesn't really hurt him that much, but I wholeheartedly agree. I think MJF, he's phenomenal in the ring. He's out of this world on the mic. He's got a very, very bright future ahead of him. And not to mention, I mean, he's one of the bright spots on that television show. He really is.
Now, and I feel like a lot of this list is really just messed up too, because it looks as if Moxley's been put at the top because of his name and what he's done with the titles over the last year. I mean, you got Naito, who is, I believe, 6th. Is that correct? I don't have the list in front of me. 5th.
Okada is 6th.
Okay, so Naito beat out Okada, which makes no sense to me. I mean, Naito should be at near the top. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he had a better year than Okada, even though he was the IWGP Intercontinental and World Champion at the same time. But I don't think anyone didn't see that coming either. I thought that everyone kind of saw from a mile away that he was going to hold both of those at the same time. Now, if it was Evil, no one would have seen Evil turning and then beating Naito the next night for it either. Now, this was supposed to be the first year that women were going to be more included into the PWI 500. Now, their past ratings, because there has been women in the top 500 before, because usually they're just sent over to the PWI 100 top women wrestlers of the year. I feel that for this year alone, there was more than enough women that should have been used near the top of this list, because usually how they rank them on a list with the men is star power again, feuds again, but they have to have had some sort of feud with a male wrestler.
Tessa Blanchard, prime example.
That's what I'm getting at here, is that I don't think any woman had a better and bigger impactful year, no pun intended, than Tessa. Tessa Blanchard.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, Bayley has had a great title run and a great feuds and great, chemistry with Sasha. And, you're about to see bigger and better things with her going into this feud with Sasha now. But nobody touched Tessa on that level. The only thing that hurt Tessa is the way she reacted to dropping the title back to Impact and giving it back, because whatever happened behind the scenes there, personal opinions or not, I feel that there was probably something to do with the contract. She wanted money. She was trying to hold them up. I can't guarantee you that. I just see what I read online.
Probably had something to do with ego as well.
Of course. I feel that she is probably the biggest and brightest woman competitor over the last year because of what she did with Sami Callihan. And then winning the title on top of it, and you beat somebody like Brian Cage. And,
yeah.
I mean, look, I'm not a big Brian Cage guy, but he's a bigger name. He's got drawing power. Maybe not since he's went to AEW. But before that, yeah, he was somebody that they really looked at in Impact as a potential big star in the future. And she beat him. So, I mean, Tessa, in my opinion, was the top woman wrestler of the year.
I mean, that's pretty hard to dispute. Now, given what she accomplished.
Who else on this list do you feel needs to be moved around?
Okay, it's like you were talking about how Roosh is number 18.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to it. MJF is 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is absolutely wrong. As well as you got Keith Lee at number 11. Granted, he's done a lot in NXT. At the same token, you also have Nick Aldis at 15.
Nick Aldis should have been higher.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. You have Keith Lee ranked 11 and Nick Aldis at 15.
Yeah, but
at 12, you got Brock Lesnar. 13 is Kenny Omega. 14 is Roman Reigns. I believe Nick Aldis should be a lot higher.
I think Aldis needs to be higher also. I don't think that anybody who actually watches the NWA and has followed the NWA over the last years would argue that at all. I think people that just watch AEW and WWE need to actually kind of expand their horizons and see what Nick Aldis is doing, what wrestlers like Thunder Rosa is doing. Other than Tessa, Thunder Rosa had the best year of 2020. And I really think right now Thunder Rosa is probably the greatest female competitor on the face of the earth, other than Tessa Blanchard. Aldis should have been higher. I don't think that 15 does him any justice for what he's done. He's held the title for over, shoot, how long now? 500 days, something like that?
He's also got a great look. He's got definite drawing power. I just don't think 15 does him any justice whatsoever.
He kicked out of his playing field and married Mickey James, so I mean, there's that too. Wow, when you Google Nick Aldis, one of the first things that comes up is Nick Aldis still married to Mickey James? What is going on?
That's the internet for you.
But okay, so yeah, he has had it over 500 days. As of March 4th, he hit 500 days. So
mind you, Kofi Kingston is ranked 9th.
That makes no sense to me.
And Aldis is 5th.
Well, he lost the title at SummerSlam last year. So what has Kofi done since he lost the title? Went back and did another tag title reign. I mean, there's really been nothing.
Out now.
There's nothing outstanding over the last year that Kofi Kingston has done other than winning the world title, and that might interfere a little bit with this year's ranking because he lost it probably before the ranking started for the last year. But I don't.
He's very talented, but you can't tell me he's got the same drawing power as a guy like Nick Aldis does.
No, I think he has.
Or even Lesnar.
I think he has more drawing power than Nick Aldis, and that's because he has been around in the WWE for quite some time. So, if you put a picture,
What about Brock Lesnar? Kofi's ranked higher than Lesnar is.
Well, he definitely doesn't have more drawing power than Lesnar. Lesnar's probably ranked on the top only because of his name, and at the same time, he's probably ranked lower than him because he only works 6 times a year.
Very true.
So, a lot of people would argue the fact, why is Lesnar even on this list at all? Because he barely wrestles. Well, because he's Brock Lesnar. He has big time matches, and that's all he has. He has a big time match. He comes in, he goes away, but every time he comes back, it's noteworthy. Every time he comes, yeah, it's a headline. Every time he comes back and does something, just like what's going to happen here with down the line with Roman Reigns. Yeah, Roman's finally turned heel, guys. It's great. You know, we're going to see him turn on his family here over the next month. Okay, cool. It's going to be something different.
But great move also putting him with Heyman. I think that's a phenomenal pairing.
I don't think anybody saw the Heyman factor coming. I think that was a big surprise for most people. I just think that what you're going to see down the line is that Reigns is going to hold the title to at least WrestleMania, and then at some point Lesnar's going to come back. Heyman's going to decide to turn on Lesnar and say, I got the stronger, younger version of you. You're old, you're washed up, and you're going to see a heel Roman against a face Lesnar. So you're going to have roles reversed, and then at WrestleMania you might see Roman lose it to Lesnar. But he's going to...
I'll be honest, I don't want to see a babyface Lesnar. I think he's a lot better as a heel.
You don't like him dancing in the ring?
Oh, trust me, I was definitely entertained by that. Just for what it was. I just really think Lesnar, certain guys just work better as heels. Lesnar, Orton is leaps and bounds a better heel than he is a face.
So what do you think about him and McIntyre going forward?
I think it'll be good for Drew.
Do you think we need another? You think we need another one? Do you think we need another Orton and McIntyre match?
Well, Vince McMahon does, and whoever's booking decides it.
Yeah, but
I see what they're trying to do. I mean, Orton, he's a veteran. He's terrific in the ring. He's sound in the ring. He's in the spot to help elevate McIntyre further than he already is. Do we really need to see it again? No. But in that same token, instead of Orton, who would you like to see work with McIntyre to bring him to that next level?
Move Styles back to Raw. Put him with Styles.
That'd be a good choice too.
That's what I would do. Is that, there's obviously issues between Heyman and Styles already, and now that they're both on the same show again, hell, what's AJ doing on SmackDown anyway? They gave him an Intercontinental title reign for a little while. You had that nice little pop in of Joseph Park, which I was happy with that. Anyone who watched TNA back in the day should have been happy to see Joseph Park in an actual WWE ring. But
there's probably not a lot of WWE fans that actually knew who he was, sadly enough.
No. But if you would move AJ back to Raw, which, yeah, it does sound kind of silly to continue to move him around the way that they do. If you move him back to Raw, you could really elevate McIntyre even more. Look, AJ doesn't have a lot of gas left in the tank. You know, AJ has openly stated he's looking forward to retirement on his Twitch stream. So he doesn't have a whole lot of time left. So move the guy over to Raw, put him with McIntyre, and then move on from there. I mean, who's going to be the viable option to finally dethrone McIntyre? Because I like McIntyre. I think he's a great wrestler. I think he's a good champion. But his championship reign has been lackluster. Now, that just might be because there's no crowds. It might be because of COVID and everything. But when you try to act like a really big-time babyface, the way that McIntyre does when he gets out to the ring every single week, he looks silly. And everything kind of gels differently because of no fans there, especially with the added noise that they add in now, like I criticized last podcast about how it sounds weird. Yeah, well, I watched a video online of someone actually taking the audio off of a WWE 2K game, and it matched the exact same audio that's on Monday Night Raw right now. So I don't know if it's true or not, but it is kind of funny to see, because even when I heard it, I said, this might not be true, but it sounds a lot like a 2K game.
I mean, I'm sure it's similar if it's not exactly. I mean, I can see why they would use the same thing. I mean, think about it. They already paid to make it once. Why pay again?
Well,
from a business standpoint, it makes sense.
Well, I mean, if you're having people put up stupid things on the webcams anyway, you're really going to trust them to use their microphones too?
Oh, absolutely not. And I'm sure that's why they didn't.
You know, it's just, I think the whole title reign of his has kind of been ruined because of COVID. I don't think the fact that there's ever any fans there doesn't help. I don't think that it's really elevated him to where he should have been. But the question then is who's going to be the guy to dethrone him? Who's going to be the option to go ahead and move forward? Well, who do you think is going to do it?
That all depends. Aren't they supposed to do a superstar shakeup coming up here soon?
I mean, that's a rumor. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But I think there's only one option to move forward to really bring the title into WrestleMania and do what I think everyone wants to kind of see is move Orton into the title picture, win the title from McIntyre, because it's not going to hurt McIntyre to lose to Orton. Give him another rematch and move forward with Orton. Orton's the hottest heel you got right now other than Roman.
Yeah, can't argue that. I would honestly like to see Big E get elevated and actually win a championship. I think he deserved it. He deserves it. Now that Woods and Kofi aren't active right now, why not Big E?
You say a championship. What one are you talking about?
Universal.
All right, why? Why do you think that? Why do you think that Big E is going to be a viable option to be Universal Champion?
I think the crowd would get behind that. You know, typical Vince McMahon, think about the way Vince always has seen his top guys. You know, you got to have that look.
Mm-hmm.
Big E has that look. Not to mention the New Day. Yeah, they've gone on for what seems like 20 years. Even though they're still over with the crowd. Think about the pop Kofi got when he won the championship. Now, I'm not saying have Big E win the championship and hold it for 2 years. I'm just saying he'd be a viable option as a transitional champion if they need one to get the strap on someone else.
Well, I don't agree with him being put right into that picture right now. I think that he kind of needs to be put into a situation to show that he's a viable singles competitor, because before he was put in with the New Day, he really didn't do a whole lot. Yeah, he was NXT champion, but
he makes lots of good pancakes from what I hear.
I mean, he's funny. He's really funny. What he writes on Twitter is hilarious. But I just don't think I just don't think that going forward, it's just the guy that you're going to want with your Universal title on. Nonetheless, having him be the guy to beat Roman. Because with as hot as Roman is right now, and you're talking, you have a red hot Roman Reigns right now with him turning heel. There's nobody hotter in the industry right now than Roman Reigns. So you put that title on Roman, and Big E's going to be the guy to take it off him? I don't think so.
Not necessarily now, but I would like to see at some point him get his due. I think he'd surprise a lot of people.
As a face or a heel, though?
As a heel, I would say turn on the New Day, pretty much, split them up. I mean, you can always leave Woods and Kofi together, but I'd like to see Big E separate himself, pretty much say, well, screw you guys. This is about me now. Like right now, I would like to see Roman continue a feud with The Fiend. That's what I want to see.
Well, that's what I think everyone kind of assumed going forward, but immediately it appears as if they're trying to really show that he's a heel by having him dismantle his own family member, because that's what's going to happen. I don't think anybody saw going forward that it was going to be Roman Reigns and Jey Uso for the title. I mean, it's kind of cool to see an Uso getting an opportunity for something other than a tag title, but at the same time, all they're going to do is use him as bait for Roman to really cement his heel run, that he's going to dismantle his own family to take what he wants.
Now, with the whole family situation, what do you think the chances are Vince brings The Rock into this fold somehow?
I think it's been discussed. I just don't know if it's going to happen. Because I've heard people and seen people talk about it already online, is this going to build to a Rock and Roman match at WrestleMania? And yeah, that would be kind of cool to have The Rock back in the fold, but I just don't know if that's the direction you'd want to take. It's going to sell a lot of tickets, don't get me wrong. It's going to sell a lot of merchandise. But do you really want to put Roman Reigns up against The Rock, especially, Heyman's kind of your mouthpiece now, but Roman still he has a history on the mic, and it's not a very good history. So The Rock is eventually going to have to, if he gets involved, lure Roman out of his shell to bring him onto the mic, so it's not just a Paul Heyman Rock feud here, because it's not going to be as entertaining as as it sounds.
I mean, on the mic, he's going to be glad he has Heyman, because if he went one-on-one with The Rock on the mic, just like what happened with Cena, he would get eaten alive.
But that's my point, and I think that's kind of why we haven't seen Brock and The Rock. Lesnar's come back into the fold, and The Rock has been in and out with the company over the last 10 years or so. I think that's why they haven't elevated The Rock versus Brock Lesnar, because how is it really going to look on television and pay-per-view when you got The Rock and Heyman doing all the talking and Brock is just standing there? Yeah, that works with other guys. But somebody who's The Rock, which means that you've reached your peak. You've reached where you want to reach in your career. So going forward, you're never going to hit that high again. Well, how's it going to look on television and be responded to by the fans when it's just The Rock and Heyman talking back and forth? So The Rock's going to insult Heyman, The Rock's going to insult Brock, or in this case Roman, and then eventually there's just going to be a fight, and that's it. I just don't think it's going to look very good, and I don't think it's going to sound any better than what anyone could already perceive it as. Yeah, it's going to be funny. The Rock's going to come back and do his typical funny bit. But how is it really going to be perceived when The Rock's doing it via satellite for 3 out of the 5 weeks going up to WrestleMania? So Heyman's just in the ring bashing The Rock, and Roman's just standing there nodding his head. How would it be if they used it with Brock Lesnar at some point over the last 10 years? The Rock's doing it via satellite like he did with John Cena, and Paul Heyman's just going to be talking, and Brock's going to be standing there shaking his head. It's not going to look very good.
No, and I'm with you on that, which is why, I get why if they were to do The Rock, I get why they would do it. I mean, it's a big money draw, like you said. See, I'm going to say, just like I said before, I really want to see a long-term program with The Fiend. Even if they don't put the belt back on Bray, I feel like Bray deserves it. He has put so much into his characters and his development of his characters. Not many others, and actually bring out their characters like he does. You can tell he's a student of the game, obviously, and I really feel like he should get this push, and if you work him with Roman, who is ultra hot, win or lose, that's going to be good for, the Fiend character. Or
now, How do you feel about someone else who has a bunch of different characters, and that's Matt Hardy almost getting his head split in half this past weekend?
Oh, that was absolutely brutal to watch.
They should have stopped.
Brutal.
They should have stopped that match.
Very surprised he didn't. No, they should have. I was very surprised when I saw him hit. I was expecting when he got up to see a big split in his skull. That looked terrible.
I don't understand how they didn't stop that match, especially now with reports coming out that he passed concussion protocol. Tony Khan went on Twitter and said, oh, he passed his CAT scans. He doesn't have a concussion. I've gotten about 5 to 6 concussions in my lifetime, and I've gotten them in a lot simpler ways than falling 10 feet on my head onto concrete.
Absolutely. I got hit in the head with a door, and I got a concussion.
You know, I don't understand how you could sit there and put that online and make it look like you guys did the right thing because he doesn't have a concussion. Now, the last time I had a concussion, the doctor explained them to me like this, is that there's majors and minors. The way that you decipher them is if you have a major concussion, you're dead. That's it. Everything else is a minor. So somebody who has had multiple concussions in their life is more susceptible to a concussion again. So you mean to tell me somebody like Matt Hardy, who's had his brain scrambled how many times in his life? I mean, look at the TLC matches. Look at the ladder matches. This man has had probably more concussions than almost anybody in all of AEW.
No, we can't really bring in, if we're going to bring in protocol for those matches. To remember, when the TLC match was happening, we didn't know what we know now about brain injuries and CTE.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Absolutely, now they should not have had that match.
I'm not criticizing what happened back in the days of TLC in the beginning. What I'm saying is that you can't tell me that they went through an extensive protocol with this guy right after he landed on his head like that.
Certainly didn't look like it.
I mean, I'm not backstage. I can't tell you what happened, what didn't happen. Maybe there was. I don't know. But personal opinion is the fact that the guy just fell on his head on the concrete from a high elevation. Then
directly on his head.
Then you're going to go ahead and let the match continue. And you even hear the ref saying stuff like, Matt, don't. I'm fine. Look, it looked to me, honestly, as if Matt convinced them, oh, I'm good, I'm going to keep going. And then the match quickly ended after that. And he was sent to the hospital. It doesn't resonate well with me, the fact that he went through a concussion protocol before they restarted that match. And then they decided, hey, you got to go to the ER. Like, if you pass concussion protocol, why are you being sent to the ER immediately afterwards?
Not to mention, after he fell, go back and watch it. He was having trouble standing. Guevara was leading him in the match after that point.
And that's scary to think about in itself.
Yeah, so that's true. But if he was leading him in the match, did Matt really know where he was? That's up for debate.
It might not have been this huge concussion. It might not have been this one that really rattled him bad. But you can't sit there and tell me that he didn't have his bell rung. He did. He definitely did. He landed on his head from a high elevation. For somebody who has had multiple in their lifetime, you can't tell me because now you're more susceptible to a concussion that he didn't have one after that. Even his wife went on Twitter and said something about it. Oh, you can't tell me that he doesn't have a concussion. Oh, and then then she shared a text message and said in the caption, well, 1,000% concussion. And then Tony Khan says, oh, no concussion. And then this past week on Dynamite, she shows up in the crowd during his promo. And it's like, oh, come on. Come on. What had to be said backstage to get her in that crowd that night? Maybe she just went there to go ahead and lambaste into the Khan family and tell them exactly how she felt about how they were all full of crap. And then they were like, well, I agree. You want to go on TV for a little while?
No, she definitely did not keep her mouth shut.
No, and I don't blame her. You can't tell me that Tony Khan and them actually went through the process that needed to be gone through. I just don't buy it.
It seemed like it all happened very quickly for that to have happened.
I just don't buy it. I just don't feel that they went through the necessary steps, and then if they did, why'd you immediately send him to the hospital? Precautionary reasons, but still, why didn't you just say, hey guys, look, Accident happened. Look at Ivar on Raw. He threw his own X up, and they stopped the match. It was over. They took him out of the match immediately. He threw his own X up, which I've never seen before, and
Never.
and they pulled him out of the match, and that was it. I get the old school mentality of I'm tough, I'm gonna fight through this, I'm gonna get through this spot here, I'm okay, and try to finish it out. But at the end of the day, that's where management and the doctors need to step up and say, no, you're not okay. You landed on your head. Is your judgment really where it needs to be right now?
I mean, we've all seen, as of the last few years, what CTE can actually do to someone's brain. Look at all the football players that have committed suicide, and they say that's a big thing caused by CTE. I mean, Chris Benoit. I mean, we don't have to go into that because I'm sure everyone knows about the story and how terrible that was. But CTE, it's not a laughing matter. I mean, it's a man's life. It's more than.
Maybe that's what Matt Hardy's real character is, like. You know how he keeps kind of...
The ghost of Chris Benoit?
No. Maybe it's just CTE oriented, where he keeps going broken, not broken, old school Hardy, new school Hardy, V1.
I'm just saying, I mean, I'm with you. They should have stopped the match, just like they did with Ivar. A man's life is more important than a pay-per-view.
I put that on
our... He's going to have another pay-per-view.
I put that on our Twitter account at Kayfabe Killing, and PWI has done right. Is handle the injuries the way they need to handle the injuries. And I had all kinds of comments saying, oh yeah, what about Owen Hart? I'm not talking about 20 years ago when a man died in the ring and they continue to show. I'm talking about over the last several years when you started to see the CM Punk thing come down with the whole lawsuit against their doctor, that they've changed their protocol. And yeah, it has slipped through the cracks a few times even now. Over the last...
But again, nowadays... we know more about head trauma than we ever did.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that when you look at somebody like the WWE who has had consistent issues with injuries, especially head trauma, they have changed the way that they have conducted their business. Now, somebody like AEW who's coming in and everything, maybe it's not exactly being handled the way that it should be handled. And once again...
But they have Doc Sampson.
Once again, I can't sit here and say for sure what's going on behind the scenes because I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know if they did put him through a protocol or not. I don't know if it was a full protocol or not. I know from what I've heard wrestlers say about the WWE is they have you run the ropes and stuff like that to make sure that you can handle all that. But I don't exactly know what the AEW protocol is either. Maybe they did, but in my opinion, I think it happened awfully fast for anything to be said or done like that. I think it was more, and this is my opinion, hey Matt, you okay? Yeah, I'm good. Are you sure? That looked really bad. Yeah, how many fingers am I holding up? 3. Okay, well, I'm holding up 5, but let's get out there. Let's sell some t-shirts, and that was it. And then, hey, let's end this quick, send you to the hospital, and move on. That's my opinion on what happened. I don't think that it was handled properly. I just don't...
How much could it have been just the old vet in Matt telling them, look, I'm okay. Just let me finish the match. We'll go home now.
But that...
It was for Matt's call. Again, even if Matt said that, I agree. They should have stopped it if it was truly that bad.
That is where, exactly, that is where management and the doctors need to step in and say, hey, you're not okay. We don't know if you're okay. You might say you are, but we need to make sure you're okay. You landed on your head. Maybe you're not thinking straight. Maybe you're not comprehending everything that's going on right now. You need to be looked at more extensively, and then we can move on from there. You might not have a concussion, but we're certainly not going to risk you going out there and getting killed.
Speaking of concussions, off topic, I don't know how Mick Foley is still able to tie his shoes anymore.
I don't know how Mick Foley knows his name.
With the blows to the head that man has taken, just the match with him and The Rock, when he had his hands handcuffed, his brain most definitely has to be close to scrambled eggs by now.
Now, getting back to what we were talking about with AEW, now on Wednesday, they had, for the first time in a long time, over 1 million viewers tune into Dynamite. And that's great. That's huge. I put on Twitter, hey, can somebody explain to me what was so great about tonight's episode? Because personally, I didn't think it was one of their better ones. When all I see is people commenting, oh, it was great, it was awesome, this show was excellent, the character development, all of that. I think that, a million viewers is great, and that's where they need to be, is around a million viewers to really, really cement their impact in this business going forward. But why do you
But it was
think
unopposed.
it was unopposed? I agree.
Correct. There was NXT. I really feel if there wasn't, and now I'm not saying anything bad about AEW. I love AEW. I also love NXT. I'm a fan of professional wrestling, not just a fan of a company
Exactly.
specifically.
So I think going
Do you
forward,
believe that NXT was on the same night, same time like usual, that number would have been lower?
they never would have had a million viewers if NXT was on at the same time.
No, I don't think so.
The only reason that it's even possible that they would have is because people were looking to see what happened with Omega, because of the fallout with Hangman and the Elite. So they wanted to see if Kenny was going to turn full heel, and they wanted to see who the best man was, and it's Miro.
Surprise!
I think most people saw that coming, but I am personally okay with it. I think that this man was drastically underused by Vince McMahon in the later stages of his career when he was over, and I don't think that this is a bad move for AEW. I think this is a great move.
My only concern is AEW possibly at some point becoming like WCW and having that log jam at the top of the ladder with top guys. Remember when AEW started, they said, this is going to be a place for people to showcase their talents. And now I get it. I'm not saying, AEW only signs old WWE guys. I get it. People need to put food on their tables. I'm just wondering, with all this influx of furloughed and released talent, if it's going to get crowded at the top and certain guys are not going to get the showcase that they deserve.
I mean, they already have. I think if you watch AEW on a weekly basis, you're seeing the same guys every single week. I think that's kind of what Dark is for, because on Dark you have a lot more guys that you don't normally see on a weekly basis, and they're trying to build Dark as their second show, even though I don't enjoy Dark personally, but on Dark you see a lot of different guys than you normally see on Dynamite. Now, you're going to see a lot of guys already kind of get onto the back burner than you did in the beginning. I mean, Joey Janela, yeah, he's kind of had a few more matches here or there, but he's been vocal about it before already. Is that, he was supposed to be more showcased than what he is, and he wasn't getting his time that he felt he deserved on television. But, I mean,
I'm personally not sold on Joey Janela.
He's all right, I guess. I don't know. But Miro is going to take somebody's spot, and I think that's obvious. I think this really pushes...
I'm not going to sign him to put him on Dark. There's no way.
I think this is really going to push Kip Sabian forward. I actually had a few years ago a really funny interaction with Kip Sabian on Twitter. He said something about... it was when the new Pokemon game got released. I think it was the Let's Go Pikachu or something, and I was just kind of trolling him and saying like, oh, is it really that good? And he responded, he's like, yeah, it's great. And I was like, so does that mean I need to buy it? He said, yeah, you need to buy it. And I said, but I don't own a Switch. He said, well, I think you need to get one. I wrote back and said, will you buy me a Switch? And he was like, I'm not going to do that. That's just kind of where it ended. But he's got a good sense of humor. He's a nice guy. But I think this is going to push him forward from here. Like somebody like Miro in his corner is like, people are already saying, what's their relationship? He's the best man. Like, what's their background? I don't think there really is much of a background. I think it was just a way to bring him in and also take a talent that they see something in and push him forward. Like, it's going to elevate Kip Sabian instead of just having him do the same old routine every week. But
I just don't think we need more factions.
No, the whole show's a faction. I mean, Death Triangle or something? What was it? With Pac and Pentagon and Ray Phoenix? They were whatever, and then COVID
I know what
happened.
you're talking about. I don't remember the name.
Yeah, COVID happened, so Pac was back overseas, and then you had nothing going on with Butcher and Blade, and then you had Eddie Kingston come in, and now you got, the
Now
second.
the bunny's gone.
Yeah, the bunnies now with Brandy as the Nightmare
Right.
whatevers. I mean, you got the Nightmare family, you got the
SCU.
SCU, you got the Elite, you got the Dark Order. It sounds, and I said this before online, is it looks more like a high school lunchroom than it does a wrestling company a lot of the times.
Well,
Because,
it's going back to what it was like mid '90s WWF when you had the DOA, DX, you had all the ministry, the corporation. There's so many stables, and there's just new ones coming in.
I just don't like it. I don't find it as entertaining as I did in the 90s. And I don't know if that's just because my taste has changed or if it's just the fact that it's done very poorly in AEW. Like, the Elite they were cool when they came on. Like, they were cool. It was interesting to see what was going on with Bullet Club and the Elite and everything. And then, we got the Inner Circle now. They're going to oppose the Elite. That's fine. You're going to have your two factions go at it. But then you had the third one pop up, and the fourth one pop up, and the fifth one pop up. And everyone's got a manager.
Speaking of the Inner Circle, I really think that they're not as serious of a faction as they originally were.
No, they're not.
They're more goofy. Now, I would like to see them go back to the way it was in the beginning.
I think
a real heel faction and not this goofiness. There's some goofiness. Could be okay, but not all the time.
I think they need to break up and let Santana and Ortiz go and become the tag team, the massive tag team they were in Impact. I think they need to let Jericho go back into the world title picture, like maybe not competing for it, but more towards the top of the card instead of doing this stupid stuff with Orange Cassidy, and now he's going to be tagging with Hager. Hager could be a good mid-card talent too. Sammy Guevara.
Santana and Ortiz have great matches with FTR.
Oh, it'd be great. But, Sammy Guevara is kind of like that oddball there, too, to me, where he's like, the kid's got potential, but he's not exactly the best either. And, every time he does something happens. Like, he made a comment about Sasha Banks a few years ago. Oh, send him away. Comes back. Oh, let's put our faith back in him. Oh, almost killed Matt Hardy with a chair. Oh.
His face open.
Yeah. I think that there's a big gap there, and you might as well just dismantle the whole thing. I think that there's just too much right now. But guys, check us out online. Check us out on YouTube. Check us on Facebook, Twitter. Next time we're going to go ahead and put up something to see. Maybe we'll have more of a debate next time instead of what's going on in the world of wrestling. We'll have, we'll put a topic up online. You guys can discuss on what you think we should talk about. But guys, thanks for checking in this week. It's been good. It's been real. And
everybody,
let's go ahead and wrap this up now and check us out online. All right?
All right, you guys have a great week.
All right, you guys take care now.